Welcome to the 3 Life Lessons podcast, where I, Rob Hubbard, talk to renowned figures from learning and development to uncover the secrets to their success and find out what makes them tick. Remember to like, subscribe and follow to ensure that you never miss an episode. So it's been a little while in the planning to both get here when everything works, and we're both ready to go. But I'm so pleased to have Michelle Parry-Slater here with me today. So Michelle, you are the Learning from the Edges host. You're also a very acclaimed author. You're the founder of Kairos Modern Learning. You're also a consultant. You're a brilliant conference speaker and a chair, and an early member and advocate of the Green L&D movement as well. Now, we've known each other for years, and I think there's always been a really good sense of alignment. Basically, I think I've always sort of felt that way about the two of us. So I'm particularly fascinated to learn about your 3 life lessons. So Michelle Parry-Slater, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I was trying to think about where we first met, and I think it's all your awards, because I judged quite a few of your awards, and I'm lucky enough to have judged you. She's behind you. Well, it's your great work, and so I think good energy always finds good energy.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Well, the first thing that I'd like to ask you is, what's your current role? Tell us a little bit about that. And also, can you tell people your path to get there, please?
Yes, so I'm currently, and have been for the last 10 years, orchestrator of my own destiny through Kairos Modern Learning. So I'm the director there. I do a lot of work with associates. So I bring associates into projects. So I do a lot of the sort of the puppeteering of that, and I love it. I love working with other people. So they're my favourite projects. But then that job also is a one-on-one consultancy role as well. So coaching stuff and advising. I do a lot of writing, so I write for Training Journal, I write for People Management Magazine, and it's a medium that I never really thought that I would enjoy. If anyone's read chapter 14 of my book, they will realise how hard I found it to transition into writing, because it was a skill that I didn't have, and I beat myself up about not having that skill. But how did I get all the way to there? Writing a book, never in my wildest dreams, like never in a million years. I did a master's degree at university, and after that, just at the party when we were finishing, somebody said, "Oh, I'm going to teach English in Japan." And I thought, well, that sounds like a good crack. Let's sort that out. So off we went, me and my boyfriend, now husband. We went and taught English for a couple of years in Japan. So when we came back to England, it was in the days when jobs were advertised in newspapers. So we were scouring through the newspapers. I was looking for a job, and there was a job advertising for a Japanese speaker that my dad says, "Oh, you can do this." I'm like, "No, Dad. 2 years teaching English, all I can order is beer and food. That's it." So next to that advert, as serendipity would have it, was a job looking for somebody in relocation. And I thought, well, I've done that. I've moved. So I've moved back again. So I ended up working in global mobility for about 15 years. But because I had that teaching background, when new people came into the organisation, they always would say, "Oh, sit with Michelle. She'll tell you what to do. She'll teach you how it all works." And I did that sort of informally for a long time. And then when the company that I was working for merged with another and we got bigger, they needed that sort of trainer manager role, as it was back then. And I said, well, I'll do it, but I want some formal instruction. So I went on a train the trainer course and became a trainer. And it was all face-to-face. It was all in person. I was flying around the world. My passport took a battering. And every time I travelled, I would bring my children a book from the country that I travelled to. And one Christmas, must have been about 2012, something like that, I came, I'd been away, come back, and then of course it was Christmas holidays, and my young daughter, she was 4 at the time, and she said, Mummy, where are you going? Where are we getting the book from? And I said, well, it's Christmas. I'm here. I'm like, I'm at home. And she was really crestfallen and disappointed. And I'm like, okay.
Thanks for that.
This isn't working. This isn't a thing. We need to look at doing things differently. And so I started that whole Christmas holiday. I was really thinking about, how am I delivering? How is this working? What's good and what's bad in learning and development, as it had kind of morphed into. By this time, I was global head of learning in a corporate. And I just thought, no, this doesn't work. And I was considering, when I was in Moscow and I'd got up at 4 a.m. to get the plane, and then I'm delivering all day, and then I'm in a hotel overnight, and then I'm coming back having delivered all the next day. You know, who's helping Madrid? Who's helping in the Marseille office? Who's delivering what they need when they've got questions? And I realized that actually it was totally and utterly the wrong way round, that the focus on being there wasn't learning it. And I started to call it injection education. It's where you go along, inject someone, right? You've got the knowledge, and off I go and inject the next person, like some flying doctor or something. And so I went back to the office in the January, and I said to my director at the time, this isn't right. We need to do something differently. Everyone deserves me on a good day, not me who's got 4 a.m. or me who's missing my kids, or me who's worrying about what book I'm going to buy in a language they can't speak. And so I just started that journey into digital learning, and we implemented a learning platform after a period of research and months and going to learning technologies. And yeah, the rest is kind of history, if you like. From there, I ended up consulting with other people about how we did that. How did we morph into... We were the first global customer for a video-based learning platform. And so I got trotted out to all of the events. Talk about your story. And that's kind of how I fell into that. But yeah, I love it. I'm very lucky to do what I do. It's a pleasure. So it's not work, is it? That's what I say. If you like what you do, it's not work.
Yeah. I mean, how lovely that came from just the kind of natural traits that you have of like wanting to help other people. So, go and sit next to Michelle. She'll help you learn. And then it just went on from there. That's a lovely transition in. I always find it fascinating how people come into L&D, because we often take very circuitous and interesting, difficult routes sometimes.
I don't think as kids, doctors, train drivers, aeroplane mechanics or whatever, that job doesn't exist in our heads as a child. So no one's putting their hand in the air going, oh, sir, I'd like to be in learning and development or in HR. Those jobs aren't known particularly.
Yeah, very true. So now let's dig into these 3 life lessons of yours, Michelle. So what's the first one you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
My first one, I debated, is it mentoring or is it be kind? These two things, they're the same sort of coin on 2 different sides for me, because there's been people along the way who've been so utterly kind to me and have been a mentor to me. And I always try and give that back. I'm very fortunate that people have helped me along the way and believed in me, especially believed in me when I haven't believed in me. And so when I think about a beautiful human called Grayson, who I met in 2005, and he said 2005, and she gave me an opportunity after I had been made redundant from maternity leave. And that's quite a dramatic life event. If any women out there have been made redundant when you're on maternity leave or after you've come back from having a baby,
that's
you're tired, is it? I didn't know that. This is why this is an interesting podcast, isn't it? So Grayson believed in me when I was in a state not to be believed in, and we're still really good friends to this day. And she also, later on in my life, in 2011, brought me back into a company where I'd been a stay-at-home mum for a little while, a job I didn't do very well or enjoy. And I switched with my husband. He became a stay-at-home dad. And he was excellent at that, really good. But Grayson gave me a call and said, I'm working on a project and I think that you'd be really good for it, at a time where I'd kind of not really worked for some time. So, people who will give you the break, people who will really see in you what you can't see in yourself. And the reason that I ended up leaving the corporate world and setting up on my own, I will put solely down to my director at the time, Catherine Marlowe, because Catherine was really encouraging. When I was getting invited to go to conferences and talk about our implementation of a learning platform, she would, you must do that. So that's good for our brand, but it's really good for you. And I would come back from the conferences with a stack of business cards. It was a long time ago. We still use business cards. And there's that stack of business cards. People would be asking for our help, and she really encouraged me. And I remember having a conversation with her saying, you know, I'm responsible for our mortgage, I'm responsible for my parents' mortgage, I've got 3 kids, I've got 2 dogs. Like, how can I possibly go and work for myself? And she said, just look at the opportunity. And I said, I'm like looking downwards, like I'm going to fall off the cliff. And she said,
Yeah.
but you're going to fly. And if you don't fly, it's a long way down, you know? So I promised her I would just do this job in between getting another corporate job. I'm just between jobs at the moment, and I've been between jobs for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, supporting people, giving people the hand up. And there's so many good people who are unsung heroes of our profession that do this behind the
Yeah.
scenes. Donald Taylor, he will always give you a phone call and a chat, you know, and it's somebody who you'd think he's untouchable because he's the Don, you know,
Yeah. The
but
Don. Yeah.
he'll always give you the opportunity. Nigel Payne, the same. Always
Yeah.
helping with the 30 under 30s. Laura Overton, she's another person who's always a giver. We've got so
Yep.
many good people in our profession who deserve being shouted out because they recognise that they're in their position because of other people. And I feel the same way, that I'll always chat to
Yeah.
somebody or help them up because, you know, people have helped me along the way.
Yeah. And how lovely that, you know, those 3 people that you've mentioned are all at the top of our profession, and they've got there not by elbows out me first, but by helping others
Yeah.
and supporting others and being generous with their time. You know, that was something that that Nigel said, you know, be kind, be generous. People have been with him. He really appreciated it, and he echoes that back.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's one of the things that makes our industry, the L&D industry, as wonderful as it is. It attracts the people that want to give and people that want to help others.
Yeah. There's a real community in that, and that sense of, like you say, it's not elbows out, get out of my way. It's actually, how can
Yeah.
I help you? Hold my hand, let's go through it together. And I love
Yeah.
that, this profession.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's lesson 1. What's lesson 2, Michelle?
It's ask questions and listen. I think it took me a long time to feel brave to ask questions and ask the right questions. Certainly when I was transitioning from a corporate role into working for myself, I felt like I could never say, I don't know. But actually, that's a really powerful question, to say, I don't know, what do you think? And give people the space to think, give them the time and the opportunity to actually get their thoughts out there. So they're 2 skills, I think, in our profession that we can't really do without. But I think there's also something in asking the difficult questions. One of my values, for me personally, which are now my business values, is challenge. And you can challenge in a very constructive and kind way. And where I see things that aren't called out, where I see bad behaviour, poor behaviour that's enabled and empowered because people are too frightened to call it out, I just can't stand that.
Yeah.
It's just not good. So we need to ask those questions, even if they're difficult, but we need to listen to the answers as well. So, you know, I try and live my life with no regrets, and integrity is very important to me personally. And I think that if we want to live a life with integrity, we need to be able to be humble enough to say we don't know and to ask the questions. So I would say that that's kind of, you know, my life lesson. If it feels wrong, probably is, but let's back that gut evidence up with some real facts, and we can only do that if we're listening to others.
Yeah. And it does take guts to do that, you know, to put your hand up and be the person that says, I don't know about this. Can you clarify? You know, have we thought about this fully? Particularly if you're in an environment where it's all about front and it's all about what you project. You know, you do come across some of these people occasionally in our industry, but more in other industries, where it's kind of, they've got this work persona that they put on my work persona now. And I know everything about everything, and I'm the most knowledgeable person in the room, and all of these kind of things. And actually, when you get to know the person behind that, it's like a mask they put on. And it's like, I think part of this is being authentically yourself, and I think some of that comes from self-confidence. You know, people that have come from backgrounds where maybe they don't feel that they're kind of, you know, naturally should be allowed in that room with those people, and then they feel the need to put this front on. And I think it does take confidence to do that, but I think it's so much better when people are authentic and they are brave enough to ask those questions, to question those things that don't seem and don't feel right.
It's symbiotic with the first lesson, really, about mentoring and being kind. So if
Mm,
you're in a room and you know the questions aren't being asked, and perhaps you're more senior or more experienced than another person, inviting them into the space, so
mm,
making it feel safe for them to ask the question that may be burning in their mind.
mm.
I think that they're both sort of sides of the same coin. It's one way in which we can help people to surface things that they might need to in order to sort of progress and call out them bad behaviors. But
Yeah.
I came from a background of, you know, wearing suits because the men wore suits, and
Mm, mm.
fortunately, thanks to my mother's good genes, looking younger than I actually was. And therefore being, you know, so many times I would sit, you know, when I was a trainer face to face, I'd get into a room, short, I'm 5'3", short, blonde, not so blonde these days, it's going a bit grey, but you know, I'd have the white middle-aged man with their arms folded going, well, what can this pretty little
Right.
lassie teach us, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And that kind of environment hardens you a little bit.
yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a life lesson that I suggest for anybody, but it
Mm,
helped me to start asking questions about how can they contribute? How can we
mm,
work together on this? And meeting them kind of where they are, and
mm.
helping to sort of break down those barriers. Um, we just don't need it. You know, we
Yeah,
should be calling that out for each other, and other people in the room should have said, actually, you
yeah.
know, we've heard good things, or we're here because we need to be, or you know, get
Mm,
involved. That's not the right attitude. But those poor behaviours tend not to get called out, do they?
yeah, yeah. But then once somebody does, then others have the courage to do the same and to back
Mm.
that up,
Mm.
and yeah, things start to change. So, Michelle, what's your third life lesson that you're going to share with us today?
I wavered because this is a
Mm,
life lesson I'm still learning, and it's ask for
yeah.
help.
Uh-huh.
I'm rubbish at it. And so that's why, is it a
Mm,
lesson I've learned, or is it a lesson that I'm actually in progress of at the
yeah.
moment? And I think it's worth talking about that because people always sort of think, oh, well, you know, you're the finished article. And how can we work in
Mm,
learning and development and not keep learning?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I alluded to this earlier. When I was writing my book, I really, really struggled. You know, Kogan Page gave me a contract, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe this is my
Mm,
life. I'm so lucky. And I stared at a blank piece of paper for more months than I'll publicly go on
wow.
record
Huh.
because I just didn't know how to start. But yet,
Mm,
put me in front of a stage of people, you know, 6,000 people, and I'll happily talk to them about everything that I know about whatever the subject matter is with
yeah.
no questions. And why could I not write it down?
Mm,
You know, and what happened was, out on a dog walk, I had a Kairos moment. There's a reason my business is called Kairos. Those opportune sort of thoughts when you give yourself the opportunity to think, you know, you're often in the shower
mm,
or having a swim or something.
yeah.
And then my Kairos moment was writing. I've never done it before. I did my master's degree, I wrote my dissertation, but that was academic writing. This is
Mm,
different. Actually, of course I couldn't do it. I wouldn't expect anyone to come into a business and
mm,
do a new skill and just get on with it. And
yeah.
so you know, did the humble thing and I asked for help. And I
Mm,
worked alongside a copywriter, Roisin will know, and she was brilliant at listening to my voice
mm,
and sending me back words and I recognized my written voice. And that's what I
uh,
needed to find, from my vocal to my written voice. And as soon as she showed it me on a page, I was like, I get it. Now I see
ah,
me
yeah.
without the speech tags and the casual stories on the side and the meanders, you know, and that kind of thing. She kind of
Mm,
organized my thoughts. So I recorded, my book's split into long reads and short reads. So I
mm,
recorded the short reads, they're sort of blog length, so it's easy for people to just get through the material.
mm,
And she sent them back written, and I rewrote them, having seen kind of how to do
mm,
it. And so ask for help. We're never the
yeah.
finished article. We really aren't. And on that front, I'd want to raise, a lot of people have said to me, you know, and you very kindly said about conference speaking. The
Mm,
reason that I feel confident doing that is because I volunteered for Hearing Dogs for Deaf People nearly 21 years ago
right.
as a speaker. And when you are practicing a craft like that in a voluntary environment, nobody has any expectations at all. Nobody. So it was an absolutely brilliant proving ground for learning the craft of public speaking, by talking, for half an hour, 30 minutes, 60 minutes on the charity, like what does the charity do and that kind of thing. And I learnt things there in that experience that have stood me for the rest of my life. So I'm just going to give a bit of a shout out to volunteering, really, because it was a good proving ground for me personally, but it's good for your soul as well. So
absolutely. A win-win.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I love the way that your lessons fit together, around asking questions. There's a level of bravery that's needed there, and confidence, and equally asking for help. There's a level of self-awareness and confidence and acceptance of yourself and the gaps that you have to be able to do that. But I always think that about people ask me when I'm speaking at events if I get nervous about it, and it's like, not really. I get kind of excited about it, but I'm not getting up on the stage thinking I know everything about this and all those people know nothing. It's like, I know some stuff about this and they know some stuff about this, and in this session let's see what we can all learn together. And it takes all of the pressure out of it. It takes all of the worry, really. And I think that is echoed in what you've described there, being able to accept that.
When you realize, and I think that this is a thing that comes with age, maybe, when you realize that no one has all the answers. I mean, when you're a kid, you think adults know everything. I'm barely one chapter ahead in the book on raising my kids, I've never done some of the stuff that they're ended up doing, and so I'm no chapters ahead in the book. They're teaching me. And when you realize that adults don't actually have all the answers, we as a collective community have the answers.
Then
it's quite freeing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, those have been fascinating, Michelle. Thank you so much. I'm really glad that we found time to do this, to learn your 3 life lessons. Michelle Parry-Slater, thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep doing them. They're so interesting. I've loved listening to everyone else's.
I'm loving doing them. Tess is sort of telling me, you're spending too much time doing them. No, it's fine, Tess, honestly. But it's brilliant to be able to spend time with people that I know and respect a great deal, and often have known for many years, but to get a little bit deeper and to understand what drives everybody, it's a real privilege. So thanks again. If you've enjoyed learning those 3 life lessons, then make sure that you like, subscribe and follow so that you never miss an episode.